Gets open for three. Dagger!
Hello and welcome back to Well Beyond the Arc. It is great to be back, as always, joined by my co-host David. David, how you doing, man? How's your week going so far?
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's good to be back. It's good to be back. It's a nice week. The weather ain't bad, so I won't complain. Nice ass comment to start the day. So
Yeah,
it's
great
it's
comment
good.
from Jay chiming in, getting our comment section started off great. We apologize for being a few minutes late. We were having a little lively debate. It's getting pretty heated. Playoff season has us talking that talk, but what can I say? Starting as
So
always, you guys know a little good, bad, and ugly. And it seems like every single time we do this segment, there is more we could put in the good, bad, and ugly. There's always something happening in each segment. Each category is stocked full, but what did you narrow yours down to this week, bro? What was your good for this week's show?
my good. The Lakers. I have to give them props. Obviously, they are on a 3 game win streak right now. Currently we have won 3 games. If not for the fact that other teams are losing, Lakers would probably have secured that. Sorry, the other teams are winning. The Lakers would probably have secured that 6th seed. But yeah, it's good. Probably talk about the game coming up today at 7:30 Eastern time. Later in the show, but we'd love to win that to get the streak up to 4. But yeah, Lakers obviously good
Absolutely.
game.
That's a good pick. Guys, one of us is not going to be a homer this episode. It's going to be me. I'm going to have to not pick the Lakers. That is a great pick. And honestly, shout out to the Lakers, going back to that really quick, because the Pacers, that game, we almost blew that one. Shout out to the Lakers for closing that game. The Lakers, we need to close games going into the playoffs. It's time to close games. So shout out to the
Yeah.
Lakers. But my good has to be Sabonis recording his 54th consecutive
Oh,
double double,
double
not
double.
triple, double double in a 108-96 victory against the 76ers, breaking Kevin Love's double double record from the 2010 season. No one else has even touched that record. Sabonis is a double double machine. And are the Kings the top 4 seed that I thought they were going to be this season? No, but the West is super competitive, super close, and he is one of the reasons that they're one of the teams that's been up top and still made a push to be one of those top teams. So Sabonis recording his 54th double double. Shout out to him. That's huge. Just in time for playoff season. I mean, he has kept that level of competitiveness going for that team. So got to
Yes,
be my
sir.
good. Lakers is a good pick as well, but got to give it to Sabonis. Moving on to the bad. Plenty of stuff to talk about here. I know my bad is extremely bad, and we're going to talk even more about it later in the show. But what is your bad for this week, bro?
It has to be the Clippers. In the last 14 games, they are 7-7. They dropped to the Pacers yesterday. Um, since the All Star break, they haven't just been at it. I don't know if it's because Westbrook was missing. James Harden hasn't just been on it. I think the game before the game they had yesterday, he was 6-4, 0 for 6 from 3 point line, which was James Harden esque. That's not necessarily nice. So it just looks like they have lost that vibe at a point where, like, okay, these are the guys that can challenge what they call them. They can challenge Denver up in the West. We're talking about how it would be terrible to see them, raise a banner this year, considering they are leaving crypto.com. Um, but now it's just like, yeah, these guys ain't going nowhere. Like, everyone is playing and they are still not going nowhere. So, like, you know, this is what it is. So that for me, that's my bad.
That's a good bad. I mean, that's hey, as a Lakers fan, I'll always take it. If the Clippers are doing bad, that's actually a good. But uh, yeah, they still are. I mean, I think are they fourth right now? They're
They're
still
fourth. They're fourth. Yeah.
up there. But do you think they're going to start falling down in the standings? Obviously, they're not going to fall below
No.
playoffs. But do you think they'll lose their fourth place ranking, or do you think they'll keep that fourth place to the end of the season?
I don't know. They probably. I mean, who's behind them? Is it Kings? Kings? Is it Kings or Dallas?
It's Pelic.
The Pelicans. Ooh, that's another hot team, though. You know what? That's another hot team. Um, between the King, between I think it's Pelicans that's just right behind them.
So actually, no, Pelicans are in front. So right now the Kings, so the Clippers are down to fifth, and the Kings
Oh,
are at six. So actually, the Kings are only 2 games behind the Clippers. So
yeah. Yeah. This the West standard is just with the final 3 weeks of the season left to go. Up, down, up, down. Yeah, that's kind of how we'll see it. We just have to
I
wait till
think
the
the
final
Clippers
game.
finish sixth.
That would be spicy. Then they play
I
together.
think
They get to play either Denver or OKC in the first round, right, or something like that. Or I don't know who they get to play,
I
but
think that I don't know. They don't finish, but I think they might finish in that. But maybe they keep their fifth spot. But I don't think they're going to top again. They're going to get it because the Pelicans are hot. The
yeah,
Pelicans are the exact opposite of the Clippers. Well, the Clippers are cooling off. The Pelicans are
uh,
remaining hot and getting a
hot.
little bit warmer. So I think if anything, that we're going to see the Clippers fall. Maybe we even see the Mavs. I don't think this is going to happen. But what if we see the Mavs in sixth and the Clippers in seventh? Lakers versus Clippers playing.
Ooh,
Guys, come on.
ooh, that would be
Come
a
on
good
now.
one.
Lakers versus I don't know. I'm just saying that could happen because currently the Kings are only 2 games behind and the Mavericks are right there with the Kings. So maybe we see the Mavs and the Kings above the Clippers and we see Clippers Lakers playing. I'd love that. I'll take it, but
That would be a good one, though. Ooh,
that would spice it up. I'd be here for that one, but that time will tell because, like you said, everything just keeps
everything's
moving up.
just
The West
moving
is just a constant. It's moving up. It's moving down.
down.
It's
Yeah.
nonstop. So it's hard to keep track of that. And each episode we do until the end, I feel like we're going to have a change in the standings around that area because it's just a nonstop. It's nonstop movement. But my bad has to be the Suns losing 102 to 104 to the Spurs. Now, would that be bad? No. The Spurs
If
didn't
if
even have
if
Wemby.
Wemby was
Wemby
playing,
didn't even play. If Wemby
that
played, I would take it. I'd be like, okay, because Wemby has had an insane season, and the Spurs, well, they've not shown that in wins losses. They have had some decent games and had some competitive games, and the Suns are a team that I can see them being competitive with if they have Wemby. Without Wemby, how the hell are you losing to the Spurs? That is ridiculous, insane. It honestly, that probably should be my ugly, but my ugly is just a little bit worse than that. It's just a little bit above that. But yeah, my bad has to be that loss, bro, because that was ridiculous.
Oh my god! When I saw, it, I was like, "No way, these dudes actually just lost
Beal,
to."
Booker, and KD played. You would have
I,
thought that one, two, or all three of them were out.
I'm like, "What is going on?"
Oh my god, bro, that was. I'm not a Suns fan, but you would think. I mean, it was. I was shocked. It was insane. I was as upset as I mean, Suns fans. I know there's a couple Suns fans that have tuned into the show from time to time. How are y'all doing about that? Because that's crazy to lose to the Spurs without Wemby. That's a rough one. But we won't dwell on that one. We'll move on. The ugly. What's your ugly for this week, bro?
It has to be Celtics blowing a 30-point lead last. Like,
Oh, to
okay,
the Hawks.
you know what? There's not. They have nothing to lose. To be honest, let's be honest. They have clinched playoff. They have probably clinched the 1 seed. They have nothing to lose. But 30 points to the Atlanta Hawks. Trey Young less Atlanta Hawks. You blew a 30-point lead.
Yeah, ridiculous. Oh my god.
Oh my god, that was crazy. Because I wasn't watching the game because I don't do NBA TV. I was seeing the highlights and I'm like, no, I wasn't even seeing the highlight. I was seeing the notification and they were like 30-point lead, and I'm like, okay, like this is a easy game for the Celtics. And then I see another highlight like 3 minutes later, the Hawks have cut it to a single digit lead. I'm like,
Bro, it was
huh?
insane. And that Hawks team they're not a top 4, top 5 team in the I mean, they're
No,
10th right now.
that's what I'm saying. Trey Young less
They're
Hawks
10th and
team.
they're going to remain 10th. They're not going to fall out of the play-in because the Nets are below them and the Nets are not going to make the play-in. But the Hawks are the 10th seed. And so here's what I'm going to say. Obviously, it's not a good look come playoff time. The Celtics are not going to consistently blow leads like that and show that type of loss come playoff time, but it's still not a good look. And you want to be able to secure a victory like that. And you want to be able to secure a victory like that against a team that is the 10th seed. So not a good look. My ugly, I'm going to cut to the chase. Definitely my ugly, easily my ugly, bro, because it was just that. It was super ugly. And 1 second, I mean, like you said, the Celtics were up and it looked like that's the game. Let's call it. I mean, I've been at games where you'd see people leaving the arena at that point, possibly. I mean, even if it's early enough in the game, sometimes people, if it's big enough of a lead, that's it. Call it a night.
Yeah,
Was not a night.
white flag
Was
for
not a
sure.
night. Couldn't call it a night quite yet. And again, without Trae Young, if Trae Young is in, these are the things that matter. like we said with Wemby, if Wemby's in, if these players that are marquee players are in, even if the loss is still like, wow, they shouldn't have lost that, it's a little more understandable because Trae Young can chip a lead down like that. Wemby can make a difference in a game and pull off a victory like that. Without these dudes, how are these teams are still pulling? I mean, come on now. So those got to be the good. But on the flip side, shout out to the Spurs, shout out to the
Yeah.
Hawks, those lower tier teams pulling off wins towards the end of the season against teams that need those wins. So we always see that. We always see some of those teams that have no shot towards the end of the season pull off some of those victories against the big teams. So shout out to those teams. I guess they've had their day. It's not going to be a playoff win, but it's something, right?
Yeah.
Moving on though, this is big. I know Jay's ready for us to talk about this, and any Bucks fans or just Bucks supporters or just defenders in the chat. We are talking Lakers versus Bucks because as we record this episode in about 2 hours, the Lakers will take on the Bucks. And here's what I'm going to say. Last I checked, well, LeBron has been determined out for sure. LeBron is out 100%. Anthony Davis, last I saw, was probable. But on the other side, Giannis is probable. A couple of Bucks players are also probable. Pat Bev is out, but I mean, Pat Bev doesn't. Even when Pat Bev is in, he's pretty much out. So Pat Bev is the only
We
player
have to
determined
we
out.
have to we have to calm down before Pat Bell calls us out on his podcast. He has been calling out some crazy ass dudes on his podcast. So we have to
Yeah, honestly, Pat Bev Pat Bev is doing the most, but not really on the court. And so what I will say is this: the Lakers look hot right now. The Bucks equally look pretty hot right now. The Lakers, I think, are going to finish. Last episode we said within the last 13 games, I think the Lakers are going to finish 10-3. I still think that is possible. Maybe less than maybe we're winning a few less than 10. But if we're losing any, I think we're picking one up tonight against the Bucks for the sole purpose that are the Lakers 100% fueled by LeBron? No, absolutely not. We've actually seen the Lakers win without LeBron several times and look great
against
without
this
LeBron
same Bucks team. Against
against the
the
same
same
Bucks
Bucks
team.
team.
But I will say at this moment, I think if we're looking at no LeBron and possibly no AD, that's tough. That's tough. I think there's a chance AD plays, but we've seen a lot of games where AD has played against Giannis and against the Bucks, and we've seen him be pretty non-existent. We've seen him have some pretty lackluster games. So if we're seeing LeBron, the leader of the team, out, and Anthony Davis is in, but he's having his best game, and Giannis and all, I got the Bucks. I've got the Bucks. The Lakers won't make the playoffs. That's the most ridiculous claim I've ever heard. We're not going to go there. That's not even a pause. Like, come on now. But Lakers versus Bucks. I've got the Lakers losing, but I do have it being close no matter what combination of players is in or out. I have the Lakers only losing by 6 to 8 points. It's not going to be a blowout, but I do have whatever combination, AD's in, AD's out, whoever it is. I've got to give it to the Bucks tonight. 6 to 8 point win. What do you think though? I know you just made a claim. You said we beat the Bucks with no LeBron. Do we do it tonight?
I'm on the fence on that. Because it's not, this was Crypto.com Arena. That's different. Yeah, this is in wherever the Bucks play, Favio Forum or whatever they call their state, their arena, whatever. So I'm on the fence. If we lose, I won't be surprised. If we win, I won't be surprised. So it's one of those games where I'm just like, I'll take anything, to be honest. I mean, when I mean take anything, I mean if we lose, I won't be surprised. If we win, I won't be surprised. That's why I mean I'll take anything. But obviously, I'll obviously want to win because the farther we are from I will talk about it next, the Houston Rockets, and the farther we are from Golden State, we don't have to worry about those two guys behind us. All we have to just worry about now is chasing those guys in front of us. So I'll take the win over anything.
I
So
mean,
that's how I feel about it.
I'm with you for sure, and I think at the end of the day, the Bucks. Here's what we have to. The Bucks last game, they came off of a huge win over the Thunder, and the Thunder are a super hot team right now. And the Bucks won by 20 plus points, and it was an all around performance. You didn't see Giannis. Yeah, Giannis had 30 points and 19 rebounds and went off and had an MVP-esque performance, but you also had Brook Lopez, Damian Lillard, Bobby Portis Jr. You had all their key players that they needed had 10 plus points. They were providing the stats that they needed to win that game. The Bucks have the most all-around team that we've seen them have so far, in my personal opinion. I am nowhere near a Bucks fan, Bucks whatever, but I do think the Bucks are starting to look the best that they have looked as a team this season
Hmm.
across all ends. And I think we're going to see that against the Lakers. But that's not going to result in a blowout because the Lakers are still going to show up. And even without LeBron, if Anthony Davis is in, dude just won player of the week last week. He's playing the
Hmm.
best basketball he's played for the Lakers since the championship run. So Anthony Davis is going to show. If Anthony Davis shows up, it's going to be big. So if Anthony Davis is in and actually shows up, we're going to have a great game. And we're going to, and even without that, we might, I still, without, no matter if AD plays or not, I think we only lose by 6 to 8 points. I don't think this Bucks team is that much better than us that we get blown out.
Yeah, yeah.
But then you have to
That's
look at the fact that we're missing players like Christian Wood, Vando. I mean, we're missing a lot of key players. And if we don't have AD, or if AD is on the court but doesn't show up playing wise, we're going to be kind of screwed against players like Brook Lopez and Giannis if he's playing.
yeah. It's the
I see
yeah.
lots of talk about Lakers making it to the plan and not making it past it in the chat. And here's what I will say: we are going to talk about the 10th seed actually next, and the race for the 10th seed because right now it's a race for the 10th seed.
It's so intensity.
Yeah, it's a race for the 10th seed. The Lakers are not in that race for
Why
the
don't you
10th
actually
seed.
talk about that? Because like that's what's actually happening. Like
I mean, here's what I will say:
if I remember correctly, one of these guys
we are
supports the
the best. We've
Warriors.
talked about this last time. We are one of the best teams when it comes to a single game type of setup with a play in season tournament. No matter what it is, the Lakers show up in a singular game. If by
Yes.
any realm we lose as the 8th seed and we have to play again, we are not losing. We are not losing back-to-back playing games, and we are not going to be the 9th or 10th seed. So I'm not want to say there's no way we're doing like, but there is no way we are not making the playoffs. I'm saying it right now. That'll be my call right now. Moving on, a team that might not make the playoffs. Actually, two teams that might not make the playoffs, but are trying to. Golden State versus the Rockets, because currently both teams are in a race for the 10th seed. I'm pretty sure last episode or the episode before last, I said, guess what, guys? Warriors are in. But since then,
It's
the
been
Houston Rockets are on a 9-1 run in the last 10 games. And they're currently one game, same exact win record as the Warriors, and they just have one more loss, and they are trying to get that 10th seed right there at the 11th seed. So my question to you, David, is between the Warriors and the Rockets, who do you have finishing in that 10th seed when it comes to the end of the season? Because there's plenty of basketball left. And like I said, they're separated by just this much. So who do you have in that plan once it's all said and done?
I'm going to only say this just because of the just because of one guy. And anyone that picks otherwise is being disrespectful to just that one guy. Golden State Warriors are finishing 10th. They will not make the playoffs. Um, to compare them to Houston Rockets, yes, the Houston Rockets are on fire, but they do not have Stephen Curry. They do not have Draymond Green. So yeah, give me the give me the Golden States, and we'll see it happen. If this state comes back to bite me in the ass, I don't mind.
Yep.
But give me the Warriors because they have Steph Curry, the greatest shooter God ever created.
Facts, all facts. I'm going to, first of all, the Rockets have been hot, the hottest they've been all season. But Golden State is the healthiest it's been all season. And they have games against teams like the Hornets, the Spurs, the Jazz, and the Blazers, all bottom tier teams that they can easily win. And they can also outplay the teams that they have that are like, we have them playing the Heat. I mean, there's teams, the Warriors have a pretty winnable schedule. On the other side, the Rockets do not. The Rockets have one of the hardest remaining schedules when you look at it, when you break it down. And within their last 11 games, 6 of them are above 500 teams that are very comfortably above 500. And I don't see them continuing their 9-1 streak against those teams. So realistically, even when you take Steph Curry away, because yes, best shooter ever, easily, no debate. And just that dude makes it so you cannot count them out. But even looking beyond that, the Rockets have an extremely difficult schedule, and the Warriors on the other side of the pendulum, they can win out the rest of their games. They can easily show up and win those games. Do I have the Warriors making the playoffs? No, definitely not. Matter of fact, I have the Warriors being the team that's bounced first from the play-in. I really do. I really do. But they're going to make the play-in, and are they going to comfortably make the plan? I will say this. I don't think they're going to. I think they're only going to make it by a couple of games. It's going to be close. The Rockets could still pull off a couple of wins and try to keep it close and try to stay alive. But the Warriors, realistically, easier looking schedule. We've got Steph Curry there ready to go. And like I said, this is the healthiest they've been. The Warriors have actually struggled. I think we've been able to look at the Warriors as their record and been like, okay, they've underperformed. We've had some suspensions that have kind of, bothered their lineups a few times, some injuries. There's been different things. This is the healthiest and the most complete Warriors we have seen. And so I think this is the time to really start judging them and seeing who they really are. And I think that will be finishing 10th and then getting bounced. I think that's who they are, is 10th seed and then getting bounced. But shout out to the Rockets because, again, they're making it exciting. Sometimes teams come alive when it matters most and keep it exciting and give us these talking points and give us these things to watch as basketball fans. And that's what the Rockets are doing. So shout out to the Rockets. Warriors versus Rockets. I don't remember. That's in a couple of weeks. And depending on if they're still battling for it, we're going to have to revisit because we might be looking at a battle where they're boom, boom, right neck and neck, and they're facing off. So really exciting. Both teams have some exciting matchups to finish out the rest of the season. But again, I've got to give it to the Warriors for sure.
Wow, that's crazy. They play the Mavs, then the Rockets, then the Mavs again. That's crazy. That's a schedule right there. That'd be fun to see. Yes, sir. That'll be a schedule.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, either way, whichever team. Now, on the off chance that the Rockets were the team that made it, I think it's interchangeable. Both teams are not making the playoffs, whether it was whether it was the Rockets or the Warriors. Neither team is making the playoffs. Both team would be the 10th seed. Both teams are getting bounced right away. That's how I see it. So, because like we've been talking about, I mean, when you look above them, you've got the Lakers, you've got who do you have now back there? You've got the Mavs, you've got the Suns. Those are not going to be easy teams to beat. And on the off chance that the Clippers are back and get moved back into it, you're looking at all-star level teams. The Warriors are not, whether it be the Warriors or the Rockets, are not going to be able to compete with whoever's up in that mix. So just the play-in is going to continue the theme of extremely competitive Western Conference basketball. And I'm super excited for that, bro.
Yeah, yeah. It should be good. It should be. Oh, this last run-ins would be good. Probably one. I mean, I don't want to say one of the tightest we've seen, but like, it's definitely up there. It's definitely up. Since probably the playing era started, it's definitely up there. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's going to be exciting to see. Moving on, talking about a team that was, but when we last talked, or maybe not last, but within the last few episodes, they were not even in the plan. Talking about the Suns, we've talked about them this episode, and fortunately for Suns fans, we've had nothing good to say. We have had some episodes this season where we've been able to talk about them in a good, positive way, but currently that is not the case because they are starting to look a little lackluster and not like the team that I kind of thought they were starting to pick up the energy to look like. So my question to you is this. The Suns have a pretty tough week remaining. They've got, I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
some
They have the.
marquee matchups
Yeah.
against the Nuggets and then the Thunder. So my question to you is, Can they get back on track and beat the Nuggets and the Thunder, or at least pull one victory off? And do you think they're going to slip below where they're at now and finish even lower, or do you think they stay where they're at?
Mm, that's a good one. The Suns are unpredictable. That's just, let's call it what it is. They're unpredictable. And but they still have the big three, KD, Bill, and what do you call his name? Booker. Right? They still have them. So I'm not going to take anything away from them. But then they are still the worst fourth quarter team in the NBA. That's real. We have to look at that too. So would they snatch one of those wins against OKC or the Nuggets? Yeah, probably. You'll probably snatch against OKC. I can see them winning at OKC or beating OKC at home, whichever one it is. I don't know which is the. But Denver, no, I don't see them beating Denver, and it's that simple. OKC is more. They have about close to a 70% chance just because of that big three of Bill, Booker, and KD. So would they start slipping? As a Lakers fan, I hope so. I'm not wishing them to like be bad, but like obviously as a Lakers fan, you want Lakers to play better than them and win more games than them. Um, would they start slipping? Again, unpredictable. It's hard to predict, just because you don't know what Suns job. The thing consistent is that they are terrible in the fourth quarter, so you can expect that. So yeah.
Absolutely. I think I'm going to be honest. The Suns, because of that last game against the Spurs, and honestly, even stretching before that, their last couple of games, I think they lose to the Nuggets, and I think they also lose to OKC. I think they
Mm,
drop their next two games, and I think they're going to end up ninth. I think they
mm,
finish ninth. And then backtracking really quick to our last segment, talking about Warriors versus Suns, that would be a really, really, really exciting
mm.
matchup. If we're looking at Warriors versus
Playing,
Suns, I mean,
playing. Ooh, that would be
super,
spicy.
super, super exciting matchup. If everyone's healthy and everyone's playing on both teams, that's a
Mm-hmm,
marquee matchup. So
mm-hmm,
and that's exactly what I see happening. I see the Suns kind of teetering the rest of the season, finishing ninth, because it's not like, again, we didn't see the Suns lose because of injuries the other night. All
mm-hmm.
their players played. Beal was in, Booker was in, KD was in. Inconsistencies all across the board. It was a terrible shooting night. And like you said, fourth quarter, they are not a good fourth. Not only are they not a good fourth quarter team, they are one of the worst. They cannot close games, and you will see KD put 40 plus points. This was a theme several games this year. KD would have 40 plus points and they'd still lose. Or
Lose.
Booker would have, and that's been a theme beyond just this season. That's been a common theme for the Suns the last couple of years. So I'm not a Suns fan, nowhere near it, but I can see how it would be frustrating because not only they have the pieces, they have Kevin Durant, they have Booker, they have Beal, and they still look like they're not going to get it done. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I think they're going to be finished ninth. Now again, I do think they're going to make the playoffs, but I think they're going to be a round one exit. I think we're going to see Suns versus Nuggets round one, and we're going to see the Suns lose in 4 to 5 games. That's just my thought. I really truly think that's what we're going to see, and that's no disrespect to any of those players because just seeing the Suns make it to the playoffs and make a push would be good because they don't look like that team right now. But
Mm.
still, it's not enough. You expect more, and I've seen smoke in the comments saying Kevin Durant's overrated, and I'm not gonna lie. I don't even think he's overrated. I don't know. He's still a extremely consistent scorer, but other than that, I don't know if he really would be considered overrated anymore because what has he accomplished? What has he done in the last few years? Nothing. He hasn't really been able to accomplish anything. So, and injuries have killed a lot of his seasons. So for me, he's not that dude anymore. But I still think the Nuggets, or excuse me, I still think the Suns will make it obviously to the playoffs. But I don't see them making it past that first round. I see them definitely being like right around that eighth seed come playoff time and getting swept or losing in 5.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. The Suns are just. I know I can't. To be honest, I don't really. Okay, no, actually, I can't say what just wanted to say. I was going to say I don't blame them, but then to be the worst fourth quarter team, you do have to blame them. Like, how can you be the worst fourth quarter team in the NBA? So yeah, we'll just have to see, but it'll be good because I know that the Lakers can beat any of them on a given day. So even if the Lakers, make it to the seventh or the sixth or the eighth seed, and then they end up losing that first game, We'll take any of them because they will have to come to Crypto.com Arena. You know what happened at
Facts.
Crypto.com Arena. So
And they don't want to do that.
they
They
don't
don't
want
want
that
to do that.
smoke. They don't
They
want that
don't.
smoke.
They
They
don't.
want it.
Moving on, back to our new segment, one of our newest ones we're doing, player versus player. This is our first ever viewer suggested one. Very excited. We actually had a couple last time, but we narrowed it down to one of the best ones, and that is Shaq versus Tim Duncan. Before we get into it, and before we go into our who do we think is better, player versus player is not every show, but every couple of shows will have different player versus player, whether it's current versus current, former versus former, current, whoever it is. We're going to talk about who's who. Sometimes we'll have guests in here to debate with us and talk about who we think is better. Always, always, always in the comments during the show, let us know who you want to see within our next ones, and we will pick from that. So any player versus player you guys want to see ever, always just let us know in the comments, and we will take it into account. But today's one is Shaq versus Tim Duncan, so we'll get right into it. David, who do you got, bro? These are two legends, two multi-championship, multi-MVP players that dominated around the same era. Who do you have, bro, when we talk about legends? Who's better?
That's a tough one, though. That's a tough one. Oh my god. You know when I saw this, I was like, I don't even know what to say. Like, because their stats are so similar. Like, I had to do my research, and when it comes to statistics, they are so similar. Like, you can't even pick. So I'm going to pick this person just because of this reason. Flexibility is it flexibility or adaptability? And when I say adaptability, this is what I mean. Being able to play multiple positions. And I think that's what LeBron kind of has over Jordan. Conversation for another day. LeBron can play from 1 to 4 comfortably. Well, probably minus the 2 because I don't think he can shoot that well. But he can play the 1, he can play the 3, he can play the 4, he can also definitely play the 5. And that is why I'm going with Tim Duncan. Just because he can play both the 4, if probably even the 3 too. He can play the 3, the 4, and the 5 comfortably. Shaq didn't have the body and the agility and the speed and everything to be able to play the 4 or the 3. He was predominantly a 5, and he was really good at it. Who is the better 5? I'll probably take Shaq. But Tim Duncan, I can put him at the 4, and he'll play very well. I can put him at the 5, he'll defend for me. So like, yeah, that's but in terms of stats, I'm not looking at it from a stat point of view. I will pick if I'm taking the starting 5. LeBron at the 3, Tim at the 4, and Shaq at the 5. That's kind of how it goes. So I will take Tim Duncan.
I like how you said you'd put. I mean, here's the thing: Tim Duncan and Shaq definitely had different positional advantages, but Tim Duncan was an overall better player, top to bottom. He, like you said, he was a little more. He could play more positions. You could rely on him more, and Shaq had potential to be the best. And we've talked about this, and actually, Jay has said this off air before, that if Shaq had stayed in Orlando Magic shape, he could have been the best player of all time. And a lot of people have said that. A lot of people have said that if Shaq stayed in better shape, not only would he have been the best, I mean, you could still say he's the best 5 of all time, as he was as a Laker, as he was as a Miami Heat. I mean, you could say he was the best 5, but he could have been the best player had he stayed in better shape and been a little more, because he had a lot. If you've seen highlights of him as a Magic player, he looks closer to a Giannis style player, super agile, running up and down the court. Very, 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 very different from Lakers / Miami, and absolutely different than the Suns and past that Shaq. So Shaq's health and Shaq's, physical attributes kind of changed maybe what he could have done and could have accomplished. Tim Duncan, in my opinion, was a better defender as well overall. Again, Shaq was a force and he was dominant, one of the most dominant players of all time. But top to bottom, I've got to give it to Tim Duncan. And Tim Duncan also stayed consistent and stayed a part of a dynasty longer. Shaq obviously left the Lakers and then went to Miami and won another chip. But after that, Shaq was around teams like the Suns, the Cavs, the Celtics, not even making deep playoff pushes, not getting anything done. Tim Duncan was making deep playoff pushes until he retired. So Tim Duncan remained a facet for a deep playoff push team his whole career. And Shaq kind of fizzled out of that. Had Shaq stayed with Miami and they built a dynasty around Shaq and he had stayed in Miami and maybe finished his career in Miami or gone
Yeah.
to another contender, maybe we're talking about a difference in accolades. But again, top to bottom, Tim Duncan does outshine Shaq. But I like what you said about putting Shaq at the 5 and Tim Duncan at the 4, because that would be dominant. That would be unstoppable. That talk about an insane team up, because those dudes were the best at their position and they were just a part of huge dynasties, whether it resulted in championships or not. Those two dudes were a part of several dynasties, several deep playoff pushes, and they have MVPs, they have all-star appearances, they have championships to show for it. But at the end of the day, again, Tim Duncan outshines Shaq just a little bit. But again, Shaq very well could have been talked about as the best player of all time, or one of, had he
If he
stayed in a
has
different shape and been able to accomplish a little bit more, or on the flip side, maybe just finished his career with different teams or in a different setup. So, but
yeah.
again, Tim Duncan stayed consistent his whole career, and consistency wins championships, it wins accolades, and it will get you remembered for sure. So at the end of the day, I've got to give it to Tim Duncan.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Tim Duncan has more rings than Shaq, so I guess that's also a feather in his hat. So yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, the last two we've done, we've both agreed, but I'm sure we'll find one where we do not. As always, like I said, you guys are welcome at any point in our show to say in the chat what player versus player you want to see next. We do have a couple more that you guys suggested last time that we can go off of for our next one we do. But if there are any player versus players you guys want to see, feel free to let us know in the chat, whether it's during the live or whenever, once we're off live. At any point in the comments, let us know what player versus player you guys want to see us do next. But moving on, we are going to talk a little 76ers basketball, because Embiid is still not back, and they look, well, they are beating the Clippers. They are also coming right back and losing the next game and looking really inconsistent. So my question to you, David, is, I, for one, think they're going to possibly finish the season without Embiid. I know that they say he's going to come back and he's going to come back before the playoffs, but I really think we're looking at an Embiid-less 76ers for the rest of the season. But either way, where do you have the 76ers finishing? Because they are currently sitting at 8th. They keep on slipping and sliding, and now they are currently at 8th in the East. And now they're pretty comfortably at 8th in the East. But my question to you is, what do you think happens to the 76ers team, and is there any chance they can turn this season around come playoff time?
I mean it's simple. What happened to them? They lost Joel Embiid. Like that's pretty much what happened. It's not nothing too much to say there. They lost Joel Embiid, and let's leave it like that. Um, can they come back? I mean, all they have to do. We all know Joel is coming back. All they have to do, I said this before when Joel first got injured. All they have to do is just steady the ship until he comes back. It's that simple. And obviously, people might say, "Oh, Joel is coming back from an injury. He might not be up to speed. This, that." It's still Joel. He's still the reigning MVP. Give him the benefit of the doubt. He will come back and take this team to where they need to be. Well, I don't know about that, but, yeah, he's still Joel. They just need to be able to steady that ship. You don't want it to go too down. Seventh, eighth, yeah, just stay there, win that first matchup, avoid playing the Celtics in the first round, which I think that's probably what will happen. You avoid playing the Celtics in the first round. You play whoever else is, beat Bucks, whatever. As long as it's with Joel, you have a fighting chance. But that's pretty much it. It just went down from there. I mean, anyone expected them to actually be winning games without Joel? It was quite crazy. So, yeah.
I mean, that's a great, like, anyone expecting to win, yeah, because it doesn't matter who they have other than Joel. The team has been built around Joel. What you said was perfect. Anyone who thinks that they're going to win games without him is kind of crazy, because they needed to just keep it steady. They needed to keep it rolling, and they have done an okay job of that, because they're eighth and the team that's below them is 5+ games below them, so they still are pretty comfortably where they're at,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't look like the team that I thought they might be able to continue to look like even without Joel. And so for me, I think they do finish 8th, but I think they lose to the Heat in that play-in game. Even if Joel is back, which I do think he'd be back for the play-in, I think the Heat beat the 76ers in a play-in game. And then let's be real. It's going to be Hawks versus Bulls. Give me the Hawks. Hawks versus the 76ers. I have the 76ers winning. But where does that put the 76ers? 8th seed against who? The Celtics. Get the brooms out. It's going to be a sweep. So, unfortunately, even if and when, because yes, Embiid will be back for the playoffs, with Embiid back, it's not going to be enough to beat the Celtics. An 8th seed 76ers is not going to beat a 1 seed Celtics in a 7-game series. Because even if we were looking at an Eastern Conference Finals, I still think we'd be looking at the Celtics winning. So
Yeah.
I would be shocked. I really don't think we're going to look at anything different. Now, could the 76ers finish 7th and then avoid it altogether and play the Bucks? Possibly, but even then, I think we're going to look at the 76ers losing in round 1. Whether they play the 76ers or the Bucks, or the Bucks or the Celtics, I think we're going to look at the 76ers out in round 1 this season, which is disappointing because Nick Nurse is a really talented coach, and they did look like a really good team. But they're going to need to build this team up a little bit because without Embiid, we've seen just how much they've fallen and how much they've lost. And so that just shows how much their eggs are in that basket. And that's fine. It makes sense because, again, reigning MVP, that is your dude. They were a better looking team this season than they were last season, arguably. But with Embiid out, they're just completely out now, and they just look like the exact opposite. So it's telling of what Embiid does for that team and who Embiid is. I'm hoping we see the 76ers team build up a little bit in the offseason because they definitely need it. But I do think they're definitely going to make the playoffs, but I do have them being a round 1 exit no matter if it's 7th or 8th seed.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. I mean, again, I'm like, really give this. I mean, let's be fair. When before Embiid, let's just look at it before Embiid got injured. I think what were they, like probably third, fourth, somewhere along those lines, somewhere along those lines. Then they lost Embiid, and you're like, Maxi can't carry this team by himself. What's his other Tobias Harris is so inconsistent. He can't really do that. Who else? Who else? Carl. I mean, they brought in Kyle Lowry, but he can't carry the team. Like, so what do you? Yeah, it's just, yep. Just keep this. Just what's the word? Just keep the ship steady and hope that the big man comes back ready to play. That's simple. That's simple.
Absolutely. I think even with, again, yeah, Embiid being back, I think will make a difference slightly, but it won't make too big of a difference when it comes to the long run for the rest of this season. But who knows? Maybe Embiid comes back within the next week or two. They finish the season strong and they're ready for the playoffs and make a push. I don't see that happening. But moving on, one of the marquee matchups this week that we're looking at is the Nuggets versus the Timberwolves. Should be a pretty good game. Currently, the Nuggets are sitting at 1, and the Timberwolves, I believe, are sitting at 3, right below the Thunder in the standings. And these teams have just been battling it out the whole season for who's 1, 2, and 3. So my question to you is, who wins this week when we look at Nuggets versus Timberwolves? This matchup is pretty exciting. Should be a good game. Who do you have winning?
Uh yeah. Was it? I don't see Denver losing any more stupid games. Um, it's just what it is. Denver are in what's the word? Denver are in playoff mode. Let's just keep it there. They are in playoff mode. They are ready to come play. And honestly, I'll be pissed if they win the second time, but I won't be surprised if they win the second time. Like, that's just how it is. Like, and they are ready to play. So I don't see them beating the Timberwolves. And at the end, the Timberwolves will probably finish second. And it hasn't been a bad. It has been a season more than their wildest dreams. So they should just take it and enjoy it. Nothing too serious.
For sure. I think here's what I will say. I think the Nuggets, obviously defending champs, have looked pretty solid the whole year. This is the best they've looked for the last like 3 months. They've really kind of built up the consistency top to bottom that they had that helped them win a playoff had helped them a really successful playoff run last season and win a championship. Have they won every game? No, but they've looked really consistent. They've pulled off some big wins, and so I've got to give it to the Nuggets. I don't think they're going to blow out the Timberwolves by any mean, but I think they're going to win by 10 points, and it's going to be a pretty well-rounded performance.
Yeah.
The Wolves stay super hot, and on the off chance that these two teams would meet in a playoff series, I don't think they're going to get swept by any means. If
Mhm.
we're looking at a Timberwolves versus Nuggets playoff series, I think we're talking about a 6 or 7 game series. I don't want to say easily, but both teams could definitely accomplish a 6 or 7 game series. That's the competitiveness between them. And if you remember, we saw them meet last season, round one,
Yeah.
and it was definitely not a 6 or 7 game series. So I do think that the Timberwolves have proven that they're a different team, but I still think the Nuggets are a more well-rounded team, and I think they're going to win by 10 points, something around that against the Timberwolves next time they play. But we have seen the Timberwolves beat them this season, and they definitely are one of the most competitive teams in the West and still deserve all the respect and credit because they have remained. They easily could have been first, second, third, and then ended ninth or 10th, and they've stayed first, second, third, and it looks like they'll stay up there. So shout out to the Timberwolves for being pretty consistent this season. But I do have the Nuggets winning because, like I said, they are playing the most well-rounded basketball they've played all season.
Yeah, definitely, definitely, and it's been an amazing matchup. If they do end up, obviously know, first and second respectively, they end up going down different paths and they end up meeting the conference final. That would be crazy. That would be really dope, though. That would be really dope of a conference final to see. So yeah,
Absolutely. That would be good. I would be absolutely. I mean, it'd be exciting, and I think that the Timberwolves are a team that have really built up. They've really like gaining and obviously they've had Cat for a few seasons, but Cat kind of building into a leadership role and then obtaining several players through trades or just growing this team like they have. It's been huge, and that they've really kind of evolved into a really competitive Western Conference team, and they absolutely were not that. Just even last season, even just 1 year ago, they were not that team. So this team
yeah,
has really grown and evolved together, and I think we're going to see the Timberwolves be within that top four talk the next few seasons. I don't want to say with ease, but I think the Wolves they're here to stay, and I think they're going to continue to grow that team, and their presence in the West is going to continue to be felt for sure.
yeah, definitely. And early take, Lakers will be back next season. Early take. Just going to drop it there.
It's a good take. I like it. I like it. I like
We need, we
it.
need, we need, we need them comments is back in. So let's just
I
drop
know, right?
this.
Where are they at?
Let's just
You're
drop
probably,
that take. Let's just drop that take in there, shall we?
you got to throw it in there. You got to throw it
Yes,
in there for
sir.
sure.
Yes,
But
sir.
I who knows? Who knows what we're going to be looking at? But that takes us to our last segment of the show, and we talked the exact opposite of this last episode. So I thought, what might as well talk a little bit of the opposite of that. If you guys remember last episode, we did most overrated players. So we're going to flip it and do the top 5 most underrated current NBA players. We are going to do all time overrated and underrated, but this is current. So last time we got right into it, and that was a fun list. And I think everybody in the comments, that was honestly one segment that most everybody that was in the comments agreed with. People were pretty agreeing with our takes. James Harden made his way into the list. Dylan Brooks, the most overrated, the most overrated. But now we're flipping it around and we're talking who is the most underrated NBA player. Because honestly, there's a lot. In my
Mhm.
personal opinion, there are more underrated than overrated current NBA players. There are a lot of underrated dudes that are suiting up for different teams currently. So, David, number 5. Who is your number 5 for the most current underrated NBA players?
Bobby Portis. Bobby Portis up at Milwaukee. Doing Bobby Portis. People don't actually know what he does just because they just think he's been there for too long. If you actually sit down and watch, especially the game where Yanis was out, I think that's an example of what he does. he can shoot the three, he can defend, he can block, he can do everything. And we don't just talk about him enough. Like come on, like really, he's a amazing basketball player. I put him I put him in the same range as my number four, but so I won't say it right now. But I think they are both too underrated for the teams they play on. If you get what I
Yeah,
mean, and maybe and maybe it's not their fault. Obviously, you have guys like Dame and Chris and obviously Lila Giannis, and then obviously then you have what's his Brook Lopez also. So maybe it's not his fault, but like I just feel like we don't talk about him enough. Like when we're talking about the box and we're like, oh, these guys that can hurt you, we don't bring his name up. If you get what I mean.
absolutely. No, I agree. That's a good pick. Definitely an honorable mention for me, and definitely a player that does not get mentioned enough. My number five is a former Buck and a player that's had a lot of controversy since college. But I think that this dude, honestly, his presence on the court, specifically this season, should not go unnoticed. And that is Grayson Allen.
Hmm.
Again, dude is more famous for tripping players and being kind of a dirty player than he might be for what he does on the court positively. But I do want to give him a shout out. Now, he's on the currently struggling Suns team, but he is one of the role players for the Suns that is putting up pretty consistent numbers, and he is having a career year. So, shout out to Grayson Allen because I do think he would be definitely a player for me that'd be underrated. But Bobby Portis is a great pick, and that was an honorable mention for me. Number four, who do you got, bro?
Grayson Allen. That's I put both of them in my category. And again, Grayson Allen is, as you said, it's not his fault. He has a reputation for like what being a dirty player. But then when you look at him right now, and also he's playing with the big three of KD, Booker, and so no one really talks about him. But without his threes, that Suns team will be nowhere. Like let's be honest, like his threes are literally what like every time the other team goes on a run, he then makes like a crazy ass three that just kind of turns the game to their favor. Like no one talks about it that much. Like, and I can't remember the game where he was just shooting lights out. I mean, it was a nationally televised game, but yeah, give me Gracie Allen for number four.
Yeah, that's a great pick. My number four has to be Michael Porter Jr. Now, I'm saying here's the problem with Michael Porter Jr. He does have some injury problems. He has missed some time, but he is not. When we talk about success and the playoff success last season, specifically for the Nuggets, we don't talk about Michael Porter Jr. enough. And when we talk about their success this season, we don't talk about it enough.
That's actually true because no one people forget that he wasn't shooting the ball well during that series, and he decided to leave that part of his game. Obviously, that's his top skill, but people forget that it was all his backcourts, all the switching position and his defense. People forget that that was instrumental to
Yeah,
like ah,
he didn't need to always. That's the thing about he has not always needed to put up the. He's known for scoring. He's not always needed to score. He is a really consistent, effective player for the Nuggets. And then this season, he's putting up career numbers and he's having a fantastic year. So between those two factors, he's not talked about enough when we talk about their championship success and their playoff run. And then he's also not talked about enough staying up because again, the West, dude, has been so intense and so competitive this season. And the fact that Michael Porter Jr. is snitching it. I do agree. D'Angelo Russell was on my honorable mentions, but Michael Porter Jr. absolutely. You don't think he's underrated?
no,
You don't think so?
no.
You think he's properly like
I feel he's a Laker, so he's talked about a lot. Like people give him his flowers when they, but then he has disappeared so many times that like compared to when you call the guys on when we go through the list, you look at all the guys and you're like, yeah, he has saved, you know, he has saved the Lakers, but I don't think he's underrated. I just think he's where he needs to be, and I
fair?
think he likes it that way.
I'd say the only thing that makes him underrated for me is dude is literally the lead. Like he has scored the most threes in a season for Lakers history now. Like of any player, he's scored the most, and that's crazy that he accomplished that stat. But but I like what I get what you. But I yeah, it is a good point. Definitely not on my list, but definitely I've thought about him because definitely a player you could talk about. Number 3, though, we're getting to the most underrated of the underrated.
Number
Who's your number 3?
three. This is where it starts getting controversial, because I have my number one, my number two, my number three, two, and one. I don't know if we like, but like let's just go with it. So number three, I have Contavious Caldwell Pope. Actually, it was between him and Alex Caruso, just because no one really knew their importance until they actually left the Lakers. People don't even see how important um Contavious Caldwell Pope is to the Denver Nuggets. Like, yeah, obviously they rate him, but like, no, when they're talking about Denver, no one really talks about him. Like, everyone's just like, oh, Morian, and Jokic, but like, he's the actual player that plays defense. Like, defense starts with him. Like, people forget that he's the like. If you watch the Nuggets play, every defensive play they have starts with him, and he was the heartbeat of that title run last season. So, give me number three, Contavious Caldwell Pope.
That's a good pick. No, he definitely his impact. Another player that his impact for the Nuggets definitely underappreciated, not by fans, but by everyone else. Not by Nuggets fans, I would say, but by a lot of other people. Definitely overlooked. Number 3 for me has got to be Malik Monk for the Kings.
That's a good shout out. That's a good
one
shout out
of
right there.
one of the leading factors in their ongoing success since they've acquired him, because people forget the Kings were not a playoff team when they got him. Yeah, how'd you guys know? Pat Bev, number 1. I don't want to reveal it too soon, but how'd you know? No, Malik Monk though, dude shoots the lights out. I'm so upset that he left the Lakers. I get it. I understand, but at the same time, I definitely wish we would have been able to retain him because he is that dude.
He's a
So
beast, yeah.
he's that guy.
He is that dude, yeah. Yeah.
But that's got to be my number 3 because again, he's definitely a player that has helped with that continued success for the Kings, and I think he's going to be a driving factor in what could be a deep playoff push. Could we look at the Kings be a dark horse for a playoff push this season? Possibly.
Maybe second round,
We
maybe.
might. So
We might.
that's got to be who I have. But we're getting into the most underrated, Who do you have at your number 2?
Derek White. Sorry, that's a Derek White. Yes, that's what I meant. Derek White. Celtics. That's Derek White. Yes. Give me Derek White as a number two. He's talked about more, but people do not understand how good he is, both offensively and defensively. Like, just because of obviously JT and Jenny Brown, and obviously now with Christoph Porzingis and Drew Holiday, he has kind of taken it back. But people forget that he's good, like offensively and defensively. Like, again, defense starts with him, and the offense is pretty much through him. Like, if that makes sense. Like, he's not just that's all. I'll stop. Derek White, just give Derek White. If you don't appreciate Derek White, like the fact that I get it, like All Star, all that stuff. The fact that he did not get recognized as an All Star, at least a shout All Star, and obviously I'm not saying he's playing better than all the guys that got the guards that got recognized, but like, whew, it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah.
And that's a good pick. That's a really good pick. There's, like I said, there's so many. There's more underrated than there are overrated players, and I feel like we could go on and on about. We could do a bigger list for sure about underrated because there are just so many players that do not get that spotlight, do not get that look. And this player that I'm about to say is the same exact way. Kobe White for the Bulls,
Mm,
from
mm.
14 to 19 points a game, which is huge. Huge jump from 14 points a game to 19 points a game, and a huge factor that this Bulls team is alive because Levine is out. Lonzo Ball has been out for the longest time. The
Yeah.
Bulls are a constant carousel of injuries, and so the fact that Kobe White has kind of stepped up and led this team and not gotten a lot of the credit, I feel like. And so definitely, and again, I mean, the Bulls, come on. I mean, they're ninth. It's not like they're a top. He would be getting more credit if he was leading them and they were a top 5, 6 team. I understand that, but he needs some credit because the fact that they're even a play-in team
Yeah.
he's a big factor. So give me Kobe White at my number 2. And now we're at the number 1 spot.
Number
And this is
one,
the
most
most underrated.
underrated of.
Let us know in the chat, anyone that is in right now, and no, it is not Pat Bev. I'm sorry to disappoint you guys. Anyone in the chat right now that's on, let us know who you think the most underrated player in the NBA right now is. But David, I want to hear from you first. Who's the most underrated player in the NBA right now?
Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray.
Ooh, damn.
I sat down post All Star and I was like, how did this dude not make the All Star team? Like, how did everyone see? And I'm not saying, obviously, some half of All Star is based on popularity and whatnot, but how did this dude not make the All Star team? Like, I don't get it. Like, he's playing lights out. Like, he's playing amazing basketball, consistently doing what he's been doing. Like, and no one even says it. Like, everybody's like Jokic. Oh, okay. Like, they attribute Denver's success to just Jokic. Very few people talk about the two-man game between him and Murray and Jokic. So yeah, yeah, that's what I'll say. I just think he's the most underrated, and you can see like from the fact that he has no single All Star under his belt. That should tell you a lot. So
Absolutely. No, that's a good pick, and that's a really, really, really good pick. And I've got to give it. I mean, I definitely think that that's a player. Ooh, excuse me. That's a player that deserves more flowers and deserves more respect for what he's accomplished, especially for what the team has accomplished, because he has been every step of the way a part of that and a part of that growth. My number one has to be a player that's gotten virtually no. I mean, he's maybe gotten a little bit of notability for what the Thunder have done, but one player for the OKC Thunder that has made a huge difference is Jalen Williams. Super,
mm,
super, super, super big factor in their success this season. We're talking about Chet. We're talking about SGA. We're not talking that much about Jalen Williams. I understand why we're talking about Chet and why we're talking about SGA and why we're talking about, but Jalen Williams has been one of the most consistent players for the Thunder, and his stats. He's having a career year, and dude is young. Dude is not very old. Dude is
mhm.
within his first 4 seasons in the NBA, and he's just elevating his game every season. So Jalen Williams has to be number one. But this list, this was hard to make. This was one of the hardest. This might have been my hardest top 5 list to make because there are just so many players that you could put on this list.
Mm. There are like I'm thinking that as and there's so many names I'm coming up in my head, and I'm like, this guy, like they get little, but yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, guys, as always, if there's any top fives you want us to do in any further episodes, you can always throw them in the chat, whether it's during the live or after the show. Let us know any top fives you guys want to see. But that takes us to another end of Well Beyond the Arc. But this is not the only place where you guys can find us. David, where else can we find you when it comes to podcasts?
Yes, definitely. Man of the Football Fans podcast. Please check it out. We love you guys so much. Thank you guys for all you guys that have supported. We'll be back next week because the international break is rounding up. So Premier League football gets back to it. Love to see you guys there.
Check it out. It is awesome. Hit the channel with a sub. Lots of exciting stuff there. Definitely give it a shot. And I've not said anything about my stuff for the longest time, but we are going to come back. The Connor and Heffernan show is
Let's
going to do its
go.
first episode this weekend. I'm very excited. We have lots to talk
March
about.
Madness drama. Let's go.
So much. Exactly. My good. Yeah, exactly. That's the exact reason we're coming back right now. A little March Madness action. Going to talk a lot of NFL action as well. Talk about some NFL free agency action. So definitely tune into the Connor and Heffernan show this weekend. It'll be on YouTube at the Connor and Heffernan show, and then also possibly a smaller version will be on the Yankee and the Brit as well. So make sure whether you're watching on the Connor and Heffernan show or the Yankee and the Brit to tune in this weekend to the Connor and Heffernan show. As always, it's been great, and we can't wait to talk to you guys and talk more basketball next week.
Sure.